Yeah.
Hello, everybody. So we're up to the last day of the semester. 8 weeks go quickly. Still got a few things to go over, or what we can fit on our time. There's still a lot of stuff that I would like to show you about just introducing the tools used in game development. But there's so many we can't fit them into our time slot. So we've mostly been looking at some of the most common ones, and I ate up all our time, even on the most common tools list. There's still a lot more things I would have liked to fit in there, but we're gonna at least go at a speed we can remember some of them, take notes about them, instead of me standing up here like an auctioneer, um, stand up here and talk as fast as possible for 8 weeks straight and still barely scratch the surface of game development. But that wouldn't be very useful at all. So we got a couple things. Yeah. Yeah, this course wasn't developed till after things had switched over to 8 weeks, so it never ran in 16 weeks by comparison, but we would still run out of time in 16 weeks. It takes a while. And the big thing is just to start making games. Yeah. Just start. Yeah, you just start making games, and as you progress, you'll learn more and more, get more comfortable with it. Hopefully, you've noticed some patterns of the things we do, how we do things over and over and over again. Similar things, right? We're mostly using our transform data to move the images around, those some sort of collision shapes, along with areas and rectangles or areas and raycasts to determine what we're colliding with and apply physics. And when we get to scripting, there's not a lot of loops. We usually have a function to initialize everything, or like we saw in the case spy game, we initialize everything before we get to our main loop, and then we just have the frames, a function to handle what goes on frame by frame of the game. And then that function for frame by frame of the game is usually just full of selection structures, a whole bunch of if else things to figure out what's currently happening in the game, and then the line of code to react in that way. Our classroom examples were very, very minimally to it, but did y'all notice that in a couple of places it looked like there was way more in the if else part than there was in the actual code? That's consistent, and that as you progress further in game development and get to more advanced things, that actually accentuates even more. Ands and ors, you'll end up with big, huge lines of ands and ors and nested if statements and things to try to make it fit and readable, and all sorts of conditions that you need to check about everything that could be happening in the game at any given frame, and then like one line of code, like rotation Y increases by 15 degrees. After if we turn word wrap on, what would come up to like 10 lines worth of ands and ors in the condition that we're checking. So those are some of the patterns, sort of introducing it here. I'll be teaching the advanced version on campus. Second 8 weeks there, we will dive a little bit more into physics. We'll actually talk about Newtonian physics, look at some of the equations and stuff. And instead of just moving our character by changing the X position, we'll get into more realistic movement by, we'll apply a force in a certain direction that will change our velocity. Kind of the way we drive our cars, right? To control the speed of your car, you don't have a speed pedal or a velocity pedal, you have an acceleration pedal and a brake, which is negative acceleration. To control the speed of your car by changing the rate at which velocity changes. So we'll get into a little bit more of that there, a lot more doing stuff. A lot more 3D stuff. We just saw 3D at the end. We're going to look at a couple things today. I want to do one quick pass at a quick movement of skeletal animation. So I'll probably take that human started character. I shared those with you the other day, and classroom setting, and on my side of the classroom, I definitely need to be doing some nonviolent stuff. We'll probably throw a football or something and try to put together a target for it to hit. And yeah, we'll just kind of see how time goes. I'm going to look at the skeletal animations. I have another note that we'll talk about before we get into that. That's kind of related to it. And another reminder: the final deadline. I never accept anything after that last date that is on the schedule. When you print out your schedule, it says this course ends on December 17th at 11:59 p.m. That is the final cutoff. I once spent several hours helping somebody dig through VA paperwork looking for clauses so that he wouldn't get in tons of trouble rather than accept his assignment late. He kind of needed that. He had some really bad, it was like a really cold winter and he had some bad stuff happen. He had like 6 kids at home, so he had to worry about that instead of his class. So he had legitimate reason. It was probably better to find that clause overall, but if anybody's ever dug through government paperwork, it's kind of hard to find those little clauses and loopholes and things when they're needed a lot of times. But I never accept anything late, so just please make sure you get everything to me by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. There will be another announcement coming out about that. Hopefully we've been build a good foundation so you can start with this, start making games, which the reason we're at college is to get jobs, make money, right? So along with that, first thing I want to look at here is just a little side note. Not quite as easy as maybe implementing AdSense. Y'all's teachers might not show this. I think I'm the only one that shows it. So when you take the website design class for the SDEV grade, SDEV 153, I show people how to monetize it. I don't know how many other instructors do. We may not realize it, but in a lot of ways, Google is actually holding back the marketing firms. So if you want to monetize a website, basically you just have to tell Google to let them through. You just look for AdSense. Google Ads is where you pay to have advertising done, and AdSense is where you get paid to have advertising done. In a lot of ways, Google is actually holding them back. So in the case of websites, if it's a homework assignment, that means your teacher has to look at that website when they grade it, which is a guaranteed one view, which is way better than guaranteed one single view is better than marketing firms ever have anywhere else. They spend fortunes and can't even guarantee that one person will look at it. But homework is guaranteed that your teacher's going to look at that website. So in a lot of ways, Google is holding back the marketing firm. So all you have to do is go in here, tell them, fill out a short form, which is basically what is the URL and where do you send the check, and they'll give you some code to copy and paste into your website that handles all that targeted advertising, and they start sending you checks. Not quite that easy, but there's a good little way to make money while we're in here. We've seen it over and over again this semester, right? In most of software development, we can separate back end and front end. Usually backside developers, front end developers. Game development, they're too intertwined. So even if you're planning on just strictly writing code, you still need to at least know a little bit about art. You should probably be able to do at least some basic art stuff, and we need that knowledge of it. And we can't really separate the front end and back end, which means if we're heading into game development, we do need to make models. And a lot of people that like coding may not necessarily like the art part. So they just want to go get some art that's already made. And there are places to sell that. So we've looked at it a couple times here. While you're making your own games, right, you might make 2 or 3 different versions, not drafts, but different versions, alternative versions of the artwork for games, and then you're going to pick the best one, which means you have 2 more sets of video game assets that aren't going to be used in the project you created them for. Pretty easy thing to go sell those, right? Or something that could be sold. So we'll look at the one for Godot, but for Unity and Unreal and basically all of our engines, there's similar sites to what we're getting ready to look at here. It's a simple Google search, but I'm just going to search game assets for Godot. I'm going to point at 3 here. Or Godot. I do like the pronunciation Godot. I've heard people say that. And that sounds like a great description of a video game. Exactly what a video game is. And their logo is a robot. So it actually rhymes, the Godot robot. But you'll hear people pronounce the game engine all different ways. So obviously right at the top is asset library. Let's bypass that one. Itch.io. Has everybody heard of itch.io before? So that's a place we can go buy stuff. We start scrolling here, you'll see a bunch of 2D assets stuff here. This one's free, but it's a place to sell assets. You can sell it for a couple dollars, right? Especially if you make like 3 different versions of the artwork for your game, pick the best one, sell the other 2, and it's a few dollars coming in. So itch.io is very popular. You can put it there. Actually, that would work for Unity and Unreal as well. Let's see. Assetlibrary.com is it? Godot Assets Marketplace. This is a very popular one. This is the one I was going to point out. Godot Assets Marketplace, and you can see what is this? This looks like $100 for a bunch of models of. I see a boat and a tank in the background, I think. Okay, yeah, so a bunch of looks like military vehicles. Get all those for $100. So as you make your assets, this is a place to sell them, or give them away for free, or charge $1. And it's often a good idea. The reason I was wanted to talk specific for the engine, because we could just make the models in Blender and do that, sell it for a few dollars. Maybe you have something really nice, you can sell it for $5. But if you go ahead and take it a step further and go ahead and turn it into a Godot object, add $1 or $2 to that, right? Because then people don't have to do those extra steps if they just want to download some stuff and write code to make a game. And these things do sell quite popular. If you have something really nice, right? $1, charging an extra $1 because it's already turned into a Godot or Unity object, probably charge $2 more or $3 more if you turn it into an Unreal object. Go ahead and take in that extra step, just charge like $1 more. If it turns popular and 10,000 people buy it, 20,000 people buy it, then that $1 more adds up. So basically all you would need to do is come to sites like itch.io or Godot Marketplace, set up a vendor account, and then just start selling the models and artwork that you make. 2D sprites, different, if you code up some really nice shaders, those are popular things to sell. So itch.io, the Godot Marketplace, and there's a new one here. Let's see, the search is not at the top of this. Sometimes this is the top of the search. It's the Godot Asset Exchange. Maybe I need to put that in explicitly. Yeah, I'll look for that. Godot Asset Exchange. This one was just created last summer, so it's fairly new, but it's being promoted more heavily, specifically for this engine. And I would recommend finding like 3 of those sites, setting up an account, and just putting some assets out there on there for sale. You saw in the marketplace there was a whole bunch of things for $1. There's free things, $5 things, $1 things, and as you make assets, right? Sometimes we do different versions because we're not quite sure and actually need to see them side by side to figure out which one looks best. And you might choose the best looking one, but that doesn't mean the others look bad. You can sell them, make a few dollars, and it's good side money for game developers. And kind of have to have that skill if you're heading into game development anyway. Or if you're planning on being entirely coding, like I don't like making models, I never want to do it, I just want to write the code. Also bookmark these sites because this is where you go get your free and cheap and very expensive, super nice assets. So everybody probably wants to bookmark these 3 sites, and there's similar ones for all of your major engines, Unity and Unreal, and it's fairly straightforward to search for those. Lots and lots of stuff, but good little side source of income with game development stuff, and that is one you could probably go ahead and start doing as a student. Right? If you don't have any big plans for the break here for this week, there's what do y'all have, 4 weeks off?
Go back to 16.
You're like 16th. Oh, that's like 5 weeks off. Okay, my break seems even shorter now. I'm working next week, and then I'll be back on the 2nd.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We're working next week.
I have my admin days, so I have to do a certain number of admin days where I'm just in the office doing data analysis on the program. I'm catching up on anything that was left behind. I have to choose certain times of the year, like between semesters, and I have a feeling I want to be outside in May, so I do all of mine in December. I don't want to sit in the office in May. May's like coming to the end of a long stretch of sitting in the office. The weather's gonna be nice, so I'll do my admin days in December when I don't want to be outside anyway. Sorry, got distracted. But yes, look into that. That's something you can start doing as a student. You have a 5-week break. You make a couple models, set up an account, put a price tag of $1 on it, or the open source model, just make it free and ask for, say, donate it if you like, make a donation if you're able and you like it. If you like this, make a donation, because those are the ones that you really hear about people making it big. You hear about people getting rich on their YouTube channel and stuff. A lot of that money just comes from the donated, like the subscribers that are willing to pay a little bit extra money for some mention. And if people like your artwork, right? If a really rich person likes your artwork and decides to use it, they'll probably give more than what you would donate, more than what you would have charged for it anyway. So it's not bad but having a mix is probably best. And
mention the video tutorial, the 5-hour one, all those assets are that donation.
Yeah, just put a little box like, if this is free, I'm happy to share it, but if you like it, feel free to make a donation. And
They're an educational person picked it up like, hey, my students give it for free, or if they want, they can pay them a little bit, and that gives a crap load of potential exposure.
yes. And then there's the normal reasons the typical reasons for doing that, but also remember that donations are a tax write-off. So if somebody has a business, if somebody like has a game development business, then, or actually any donation is a tax write-off. So it's money that comes off taxes. So when people make lots and lots of money, they need to make lots and lots of donations to offset the chunk that the IRS wants. So if you just give your assets away for free and put a box, donate if you want to, it's another good way to make income, but you probably want to do a variety of things.
And rich guys be like, here we go.
Yes, that really does happen, right? People aren't going to donate $1 million to you, but they'll donate. If you're going to sell it for $1 or $2, they'll donate more than you were going to sell it for. And even those selling it for $1 or $2, there's a lot of people that like to make games, and maybe they just need some temporary stuff to work with while they spend 6 months on the really good artwork. They'll buy your stuff for $1 and have the assets to get started making the game for $10, while their art department spends 6 months making the photorealistic perfect versions. Things out there, it's a good secondary way to bring a little bit extra money in. So with the skill that you're going to want to practice if you're heading into game development anyway. We'll look at a couple things. I was thinking it'll probably be kind of a short day overall, because the final deadline is just a couple days away. So if this chunk is blocked out on your schedule, it's a good time to catch up on things if we end our lecture a little bit earlier. I do want to do another pass at the skeletal animations. Go to the documents, we'll just go ahead and.
Using your
Okay,
man,
okay.
your mannequin as a
Mhm.
starting point.
Yes, if you didn't download it the other day, let me grab that script. Well, I'll grab that in a moment, start up the. No started. And. We'll be doing in Blender, but we need Blender to edit it. Godot and Unity have very limited editing functionality because it's working with, because Blender has such nice editing functionality. Blender used to have a game engine. Blender used to come with a game engine. It still exists. You have to go to GitHub and download it yourself because they decided that after 20 years, they've gotten popular enough that all of the major game engines are fully compatible with Blender. Unreal is the only one that can use Blender materials across the board. Blender has multiple rendering pipelines, and for their best rendering pipeline, Unreal is the other. So, but since all the other major game engines that are focused solely on a game engine or oh, the word just slipped my mind. Okay, when you forget a particular word, they work with Blender. I'll say it that way. Compatible. They're compatible with Blender. Then Blender just dropped their game engine and focused more on the graphics. But they didn't delete it. It still exists. And there's even people that work off of it on GitHub and they're still making improvements to it. If you just want to go in Blender, and that one's coded in Python. So if you just really like coding in pure Python language, that's what Blender's game engine does, but it doesn't ship with the software anymore. So here's I'll put these in the chat real quick. These are just my starter files, so I don't have to start from a cube and turn it into a person because that takes a while. I go ahead and start from all the average proportions and oh man, okay. All of the average proportions for a human average, so you should be able to scale it up or down, still have a proportion, just start adding details into it.
So but that starter code there that prints out the model, did you write that or did you like make a model and use other software to convert that into that file?
Oh, I use Blender to convert it to this file. So here's what I think it's in the notes here. Notes on creating a new mesh. So this is y'all have seen Python, right? So we got a list comprehension of vertices and c.object.data vertices. That's the selected object. So grab all the vertices, put them into a list, and then open right to a file. So this goes right in the Python interpreter built into Blender. Copy these over one at a time.
6 through 9 into it and just.
Yep. Then create a set of nested list comprehensions that make a new polygon for all those vertices. Every polygon that's connected there, go ahead and pulling the 3D data back out, putting them in list for Python, then write that to a script. So I did that, and I guess I'll go ahead and start Blender. Might as well show y'all what I did. Blender 4.0 is out now. So I haven't tried it yet. I usually wait till something goes to like 4.0.2. Like 4.0.1 is out right now, so they'll fix a few bugs and then go to 4.0.2. I usually wait till like the second version on major software like that I've been using for decades. So let me create a general file, hit A, delete this. If we go over to the scripting tab, or actually, we go add a new mesh, and I'll add a UV sphere this time. It's usually a cube. But if I come over to the scripting tab, which this is fully customizable, the scripting tab here is just somebody already customized this window to one that would be useful. So right here's a Python interpreter where we feed in a line. The text editor will just open that starter file or write files. But notice down here, it shows every instruction that just had happened. Selected everything, then deleted it. Then this one, BT off mesh UV sphere add. So that was the instruction that was run to add that UV sphere. So then I did a whole lot of this. I select it, copy, and paste. And obviously I did this while I should do this. Import BPY, that's the Blender Python module. So that's all the Blender stuff. And then just copy those over to learn all the instructions. There are multiple versions of it too. Blender's been open source and popular in building for over 20 years, since the 1990s. So over 23 years, I should say it that way. And then you get the instructions and you can edit them down. There's a lot of defaults there that we don't necessarily need to explicitly type the defaults and learn those instructions. And that's how I built up this other script. Close this one. And just, yeah, slowly over time built it that way. So I built the model normally at first, and then just grabbed all the vertices and faces, put those in list comprehensions. Download that script. I did not download it. I'll grab the full man script. That won't work. There's a slight issue with the clothing on the women one, where I did a mirror modifier. It puts the slit of the skirt in front instead of the side, and I haven't figured out how to fix that yet. Because ladies in the class probably know skirt should be slid on the slide. So I used to make clothes at one point too. I tried that at one point in my life. A skirt should be slid at the side, not the front. So when the character goes to a walk, it looks fine. But because that mirror modifier splits it right there, that's where Blender wants to leave the slit on the lady's skirt. I haven't figured out a good solution for that. At a walk, it's fine, but if the character starts running, then it becomes obvious.
So like where the mirrors are joined, effectively, they're not actually joined. It's kind of treated like two separate things.
It does, but when it starts manipulating things it wants to do. One thing that has worked is just extending, like grabbing the edge and extending it so that it's like the way some skirts wrap around extra material. That kind of fixes it. But when the character goes to a full run in the skirt thing, it does that. If you take the blouse that's on that character and just drag the bottom down so that it's a dress instead of a skirt, it doesn't do that though. So I haven't figured out what the problem is. It's kind of rare that I find time to sit down and figure out the problem, track down the problems on things like that. But just letting you know that's there. It might need some adjustment after you apply the mirror modifier. That's what I usually do. Okay, now I should be able to open it.
So that notes on creating a new mesh, you would put those in there, it would grab all that mesh data, and then you could put that into something like what you have here where it breaks it to create.
Yeah, so then the rest of them, it creates a mesh, and then it would just run this line, but if you go ahead and put it to a variable, you can refer to it later. You can look through there, see where they are. So organizes it into folders and things, gives all sorts of stuff names. Connect stuff together. Then what's this one do? Then add some hair to it and a shirt. And you see it's a similar thing. Grab all the mesh data, create a mesh from that raw data, or create a new mesh that doesn't have anything, and then generate that. So like you create a null mesh and then generate it from that data. So if you make a model, this is how you can turn it into a script. And at times scripting can be really, really nice because then we can edit it from our script. But it was a lot of doing it here with the mouse and then just copying and pasting that line from here. So I didn't have to spend hours Googling what the instruction would be. Or a great way to get started on that. Let me delete that sphere we put in there. But again, you see there's the Python instruction to select everything. So select all, And then delete it, and then a confirmation comes back. If you start doing Python scripting, I guess I'd show this under window. You'll see this toggle system control. Here's the terminal it's running in. So error messages would show up here. Notice the close button is grayed out there. So you have to use that from the menu, the toggle system to control. And if you want to script your models in Python where you have absolute control over every single number going in, as opposed to just dragging your mouse the appropriate amount of space and toggle system control. Probably not a bad thing either, because it's the software development version, right? This isn't the BizCom version of game development. Probably a good idea to at least see the scripting version on that. But when we run this script, it gets to the good starting point. I've done it for years, not like constantly for years. I believe this project started in 2017, and last summer is when I added the close. So sometimes projects go on for a while, but just a starter file. It's not the finished version. Also, if I select the mesh, I can select any of them. If I go in object edit mode, we can see it. You'll see it's only half a mesh because humans are symmetric. So you would just add details on the left side here, and then the right side has a mirror modifier applied. So there's no need to do all the same stuff exactly twice. Then over under modifiers, you can apply it from the drop down. You can apply that mirror modifier, but Godot and Unreal will work with the modifiers. So you can just leave the Blender modifiers in there, and Godot and Unreal will work with them. Unity will not, but it's not hard to adjust that. You probably want to, if you're working in Unity and you're going to keep doing updates, you probably want to apply the mirror on a copy of the one you're working on. That way you can get back and still do some editing and things like that. I'm sure everybody knows how to work on copies, not the originals. You know, put stuff up. We've all done that a time or two in our lives, right? Very important in game development. Save multiple versions. So some version control just built into all our game engines is fairly important too. Which I did get the version control class created this year, but I couldn't add it to any of the programs, like the actual degrees, until next year, because I can't say it's an elective until it already exists. So I got it created this year, and then next year it'll be an elective, but I guess might be able to do a course sub or something if you want to go ahead and try to take that class on version control. And instead of GitHub, Git, which is in the terminal, the command prompt, the terminal. And
by next year, do you mean as in like 2024 or?
Yes, so the 2024 changes is when it's going to officially become a class. And once it's officially a class, then I can add it to the list to be an elective for the SDEV degrees.
So it'd be fall, would be the earliest or whatever.
So the following year is when the computer system will actually count it. But I believe some people around the state are going to go ahead and start teaching it in the fall when it's an actual course. There's a bunch of us have been waiting on that. Sorry, that's a distraction. Just letting you know something is coming. So version control can be important. That way we can get back and in our case do editing. I'm going to go ahead and apply the mirror modifier. I'll just go with this version of it, and that way. So apply it on the human. Then on the shirt, it's also a mirror modifier, so we have to do it on all the different parts. Grab the pants. Apply that mirror modifier. I'm gonna go ahead and select all of those. So the pants and the shirt and the arms. I was going to join them, but I'm going to leave it apart. We don't have to join them to bring it in. We did that with the trees. Remember, we had to join them because we were going to use a multi-mesh instance. we're not gonna use a multi-mesh instance of this, so we can keep them separate. We'll track them. But I do need all three of them to be the parent of the skeleton, or the skeleton to be the parent of it, right? Because if we move the arm without moving the shirt sleeve, it's gonna look kind of funky. So I'm just like, all of those, hold shift, and then select the armature last. Remember, the last one selected is the menu we see. And then Control P into,
That the meta rig is the armature itself?
yes, yes. Or skeleton, I should, remember your name is skeleton, that's a better name for it, isn't it?
Yeah, meta rig is, honestly, I had no idea what to pick that thing was.
So our skeleton, our hair, our human, or really the skin, all of it together makes that pants and the shirt, so everything's nicely labeled, so we can refer to it in our code with nice clear words and stuff, right? Again, order matters, so pants, shirt, skin, and then armature, because it's like the, and nope, that's the armature. Like the skin, then the armature. The last one selected is the menu we see. Oh, probably, because if we nod our head,
We don't want our toupee fly off.
yes, it would definitely make it have a nice, yeah, if you want to, a toupee flying off is always good comic relief, right? So there are times you might want to not select it.
You also didn't mirror the hair.
Thank you. Add modifier, apply.
And basically, when you apply it, that means that it's all now one actual mesh object, right?
Yeah, so if I go to edit mode now, see if we make any adding details on the left side, we'll have to go and manually do it on the right side. So pants, shirt, hair, skin, skeleton, and now Control P sets a parent. So this is the parent is going to be the skeleton of the other meshes. Oh, the skeleton is going to be the parent of the other meshes. I got to say that correctly. And over the years, Blender has gotten really good with the automatic weights, especially in 3D. Those gave us a bit of trouble in 2D. Mostly, I just showed the 2D version because it makes it harder. So then our second pass at it would be easier. The one we actually wanted to pay attention to would seem more like review.
So you select the shirt, pants, human hair, and the skeleton.
Mm.
And you're holding shift while you do so, right?
Yes. Yeah, just make sure the skeleton is the last one selected. If the skeleton is not the last one selected, you'll quickly notice that the automatic weights option is not on the menu. So if you don't see it with automatic weights, even if you're not going to use that, you selected in the wrong order. Now we could check weight painting. So like if we selected, well, everything again over here, it's like this. And on the hierarchy, you have to hold control for multiple selections. On the Windows machine, if you're on a Mac, it's the obvious transition, but the hierarchy is your normal select multiple things for your thing. And I want to check weight painting, so I want to select the meshes last. So I'll try to select all of them and go into weight paint, but notice we don't see all of the weighting. So the last one I selected was skin, so we only see the skin. So if I hold shift and click this bone, you can see that bone looks like it's affecting the right spot of the arm, right?
Where's the weight paint thing?
Under the mode, so object edit mode, there's an option for weight paint. If I check the upper leg here, Well, I can't see it inspect anything because the skin is inside of the pants, so a little eyeball for pants. Okay, so like that bone, we can see the right section of skin selected. So Blender's really good with the automatic weights. Usually don't necessarily go into a weight painting unless there's a problem. We go back to object mode. And if we select the armature, then this menu will have pose mode.
Real
This-
quick, how did you select the bones without paint? When you were looking at the
Oh.
weight mode?
So let me select the object mode. So we select armature and then the skin. And in weight mode, hold shift and click the bone. Shift and click selects it. Otherwise, it just paints. And a weight of 100% means that bone's going to affect that spot more. And a weight of 0% is like your eraser. So it paints on 0%. So that's how you get it. Usually that one can be a little tedious. Then really nice. The nicer your model gets, the more tedious and frustrating that one gets. So usually what we do is just go to pose mode and check there. So if we select the select skeleton, go to pose mode, we can go through all our emotions. So I was thinking for non-violent one, we could just like throw a football. So I need the arm to work correctly. That looks good. Forearm. And I'm just pushing R to rotate. You can see the right bones are moving. We push R and then Z, so it only rotates around the Z axis. Looks like the head turns correctly. And just check the animations you want. And the reason there's not animations in that starter model is because animations do take a lot of data. So we don't want to carry a lot of animations around with us because extra animations that aren't going to be needed for your game are going to start to slow things down. This model should be good. So once everything checks out, you will come over to the animation tab. 3 different windows. So in one of them, we have a preview of what's going on. Over in the other viewport, we have the pose mode. So we'll move the bones and choose our postures for the keyframes. And down at the bottom, we have our dope sheet. But a dope sheet is for a single animation. We need to choose this drop down right here that says dope sheet. On the label of it, switch it to action editor. And that basically gives us multiple dope sheets that we give a name to. So I'll just do a quick walk animation. I don't want to burn up all our time, so it doesn't have to be a nice walk animation. We'll just move the legs. Our game is in first person view, so it's not really gonna hurt it too much that's going on. And this little shield looking thing right here, that is for fake user. Make sure you click that. Because 3D models can be a little resource intensive, as you gamers might know, from needing to have a very expensive GPU that you still use, that a lot of your games will use very, very heavily, and they'll get very, very hot. It's a resource intensive thing. So most of our decent modeling software will automatically optimize. And if you don't assign a fake user to it, an animation, it will optimize it out of it. Like, oh, this animation is wasteful. Nothing's using it. And it will go ahead and delete it for you, which is
An issue.
yes, not always the thing we want. So for the walk animation, I'm gonna grab like the upper part of the left leg and bend that back. Lower one, and I'll just kind of go to the middle of a step somewhere. Other leg, I'll just grab the leg, rotate it forward. R, and then rotate it forward a little. Then I just push R, one bone, hit R to bring it in position. And the difference between walking and running is our arms counterbalance when we're walking. So I push RX, I can swing the arms in different directions. RX to kind of counterbalance that. When we're running, our arms go the same as our legs, so that instead of balance, we get momentum carrying. We get an off balance thing to help with our forward momentum. That'd be important when you go to animate things. Your walking characters, your arms are used for counterbalance, and when you're running characters, your arms are throwing you off balance to help add to your forward. We could bend the ankles and stuff there. Once we get it where we want, push A to select all, and then I to insert a keyframe for location, rotation, and scale. I'll do 20 frame animation. That's probably good for walking. So I like to do, zoom buttons are in the way.
What was the button to make a pose? Or to make it?
I or A to select all, and then I to insert keyframe. And you see, this is where it's rather intensive because we have all of this transform data about every single bone in that skeleton has to be held for every single animation, every single frame of the animation. All rotate, all transform. Is your mouse in the viewport? You might have seen it different.
Yeah, it's in the view, so I need to have it in down there.
Oh no, your mouse has to be in the viewport.
Where?
So push I and location, rotation, and scale. Although the only thing we changed was only thing I changed was rotation. You may have did something slightly different. I always like to do that in my programming classes. I would always do something slightly different than the instructor to make sure I understood the concepts, but not different enough I couldn't ask questions. So we'll lock those in. And down at the very bottom, see start and end down there, the bottom right of the dope sheet. I'm just going to set that to 20. And this is just something I like to do. It's a 20 frame animation. So I set frame 1 and frame 21, which is past our end of the animation, to the same thing. That'll help with the smooth looping when it comes back around. And then somewhere in the middle, we just need the legs in the opposite position, right? So I guess I'll put it right in the middle and select the upper leg and R and X to rotate that forward. R and X and rotate that down. I think everybody's walked before, so you probably know the general leg movements, right? On the other one, the upper leg, R and X. And each particular bone only makes a small rotation, but all of them together add up to a large rotation. And the back leg is a little bit straighter than forward. So R, X, straighten that up a little. And then it's walking, not running. So R, X, and we'll move our arms counterbalance. R, X here, and grab the head this time and do off X and just barely rotate that. Also notice where I'm putting my mouse. If I put my mouse like right on top of that bone and hit R and X, a little bit of mouse movement moves that a long ways. So you know what's called a moment arm. A moment arm is the length between the pivot, between the fulcrum point and where you're controlling. Has to do with the length of the lever. Each side of a lever is a moment. Never heard it referred to that way. So if you move your mouse a long way away and push R and X with a nice long moment arm, you have to make a rather large movement with your mouse to make a little, that translates to a small angle. Y'all know, you've seen angles, right? The further out you go, the wider the angle gets, so you have more control way out. So just a little bit of a head bob, and I'll hit A, insert the keyframe. Now we should be able to play this, and I'm going to go with it no matter what. But kind of a walking, should probably be some breathing going on there. Notice you can kind of see there's bones set in there for the rib cage to go up and down as well. And these characters should be ready to go. that'll work. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. I'll stop the animation, go back. I'll look at the list, make sure it has an F beside it, that it is a fake, that there is a fake user for it. And I'm gonna create a new animation, new action, which is this. And notice how it tried to create it off that one that was there. Automatically created walk 0.001. I'm gonna do throw because, oh well, it's 5 till 2. We might run out of time. I want to make sure there's plenty of time for y'all in this block of time that's already on your schedule to work on some of the stuff you might be behind on, or if you're caught up on everything, maybe relax because finals week is usually a stressful week. So if I can give you an hour to relax, that's pretty good too. And remember, breaks are productive. If you try to just force yourself through when you're exhausted, you're gonna be far less productive than if you would have took a break when you needed it. Trying to push yourself through exhaustion isn't gonna, the quality of the work goes down. If I push A to select all the bones, notice since it made a copy of that, we have all those keyframes. And come down here somewhere in the dope sheet and right click, and there's the delete keyframes. And this is something you'll want to watch out for because you'll notice when I click this, it deletes all the keyframes. Whoops, not duplicate keyframes. Delete keyframes, and notice it deleted all of the keyframes and cleared out our action editor. So now we have to go back in there and select that throw animation, which didn't have an F beside it, so better click the fake user button. I just remember to do that, and then set up whatever would be for a throw animation. But everything's still in the position it was. So A to select all the bones, and then Alt R resets the location of it. That's reset all the bones back to the original positions we created them in. So for a throw, what are we gonna do? We're gonna start in that standing position. So I'll insert a keyframe here, and I'll come one frame past it, insert a keyframe, so that way it'll loop smoothly. It was on 20, so I'll just keep it on 20. Then somewhere along the way, if the character's got a football, he's gonna a couple frames in, he's gonna start raising his arm. So this one will rotate. At the same time, this is probably gonna rotate more. So I did about half the movement, and then A, insert the, whoops, A, then I'd insert those movements. Rotate that just a little bit more. Rotate that a little more. And I'll throw like this. Not a good throw. I guess that's oh, that's something the fans do, not the quarterback. The
Yeah.
What do they call that?
I
The
mean,
chop, tomahawk chop. Yeah. The fan call. I'll do that and call it a throw for now because a throw should really
the
involve
throw is
the
a
entire body.
big whole thing. This is a simple animation.
Yes, we are just going over the thing. So this is a fan doing the tomahawk chop, and we're gonna put a football in their hand or launch a football from their hand if we don't run out of time. Yeah, but we just want the step for animation that a proper throw involves the whole body.
Yeah.
The way you set your ankle that gets lifted off the ground makes a difference in that throw. So
Many early access or simple low end games do just the arm raising full.
yes, so I'm just gonna do the simple version. I'll leave it to you all to do a full proper throw. White paper works better on this mouse. I forgot. Okay, white paper is better than that ripped up folder. And somewhere in, I forgot to restrict it to the x-axis, so my arm got twisted. I'm just gonna hit rotate Y and kind of straighten that out a little. Oh, I'm in the wrong position. Let me go back to where in the dope sheet. So I'm still at frame 7. So I want to be there about frame 13. That's where we want to rotate X. Bring the upper arm up. Rotate X, bring it back. That'll work. Select all, A to select all, I to insert keyframe. Yes.
So something that I guess I've now figured out that it's been part of the issue I'm having is in the right-hand screen, the thing where you have the skeleton, whenever I'm okay, see, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I just don't know what I'm doing wrong.
So what's it doing? So click in the blank space to deselect everything.
Yeah.
And then grab the one bone you want. So this is frame 18. We're almost to the end. We're going to throw really, really quick and then lower our arm back down. So I'll go ahead and select the forearm. R to rotate, X so that's only the X axis. Bring it down to about straight because then it's going to go back by the side in the next 2 frames. And then I hit A to select everything. Did you get that?
Yeah, just keep going. I'm trying to figure something.
And then we push I to insert a keyframe. So you have to choose which frame that goes on. Choose which frame of the dope sheet you're going to put that in. And move that first. Make all the adjustments. And after we select everything, push I and we can insert that. And now those keyframes are the spots that we're telling the computer it has to be in this spot. So we run it. It just lines up those keyframes so that that particular frame of the animation, it knows what spot it has to be in and fills in the area required. You're still giving you trouble, Brady? I'm not sure what's going on with it.
I'm still working on the block animation. I'm just trying to say, I think
I probably should have done this one first. So maybe do the throw animation first and then come back and do the walk animation. But remember, we're first person, so we don't really need the walk animation except for our shadow.
well, part of it is just the way it's acting, doing stuff. It just to me, I'm getting confused on some of that.
It does take practice. I've been doing this for decades. I've been doing this for longer than you've been alive. I'm pretty sure. How old are you? 28. Yes, I've been doing this for longer than you've been alive. So it takes a lot of practice. I was just showing the steps. Do the steps make sense? Select the bone, move it, and think about your bones. Do you ever change the position of your bones? No, right? All we change is the rotation of our bones.
Yeah, I get that. It's just the way the software is reacting to some stuff I'm doing. I think it's just me being confused on what it's showing versus what's happening.
So most of it happens in the viewport here. Make sure you're in pose mode. Are you in pose mode?
Yes, I am.
And yeah, you'll just want to get some practice. But that's why we're showing it, because yeah, that's the steps. Do that over and over and over again for every single bone. Let me go ahead and stop this animation. That won't work. See these extra bones down here? There's bones here for inverse kinematics, which is a big fancy word, but really that's like a marionette puppet. So if I grab this bone, this one down here, I'm going to undo this. So this one's a lot more complicated, but if I grab that and this one I actually want to move, so I'll push G, X and move that around. Oh, not X. Escape and G, Y and move that down the Y axis.
What is that?
I was trying to do one of the inverse kinematics bones.
What is inverse kinematics again?
It is a way to move things. Oh, maybe I didn't set up inverse kinematics. I'm not sure what that was grabbing. So inverse kinematics, you also see that's a different skeleton. So that I have that in a different script. There will be another ankle bone pointing straight out.
There is
Okay, so like an ankle bone pointing straight out, if you grab that and move that, it's like the marionette puppets, the ones with strings going up. I think everybody's familiar with Pinocchio, pretty standard in American culture, where you pull the string. Because if you stop and think about how you walk, we don't think about our upper leg and lower leg and arms when we're making those steps. All we think about, probably haven't paid attention since you were a kid, but if you stop and really focus on what you're doing when you're walking, the only thing you think about is your ankle. Where does your ankle go? That's why we sometimes trip, right? But have you ever tripped from your ankle? You trip because your toes are in the wrong spot. Your ankle, all we think about is where our ankle goes. Sometimes it happens on stairs, especially if you're behind it. But same thing with our arm. You just think about where your wrist goes, and then once your entire arm is in position, then you think about your fingers. Our fingers will think about every single drop of air, because as humans, that's our super focused control. But for the general movement, walking, we only put our ankle someplace in the rest. We can do the same thing, and that's what marionette puppets are. That's how we control that. All the motion with just a couple of strings. So one on each ankle and one on each wrist gets the full range of human movement. And in computers, they use the big technical terms for it, so they call it inverse kinematics. But don't let the big word scare you. Marionette puppets were ancient when writing was created, and usually made of wood and strings. So we don't know how. None of the ancient ones survived. Just some of the earliest writing that humanity ever had refers to the ancient art of those style of puppeting. So it was called ancient when we thought it works. So,
So when you go to make another animation, how do you clear out the other stuff?
So you click new, and it will create one based off the one you have. And if I hit A, all the keyframes show up. So what you do is you right click and delete keyframes. Right click on the dope sheet and delete keyframes, and that'll delete all of them. So now it goes back to the basic list. So make sure you go to the drop down menu and reselect that. I'll just call this one idle instead of deleting it. I'll make our idle animation nothing. So our idle animation is just going to stand still for 20 frames. That'll work for a first draft. We probably want to at least move those ones on the rib cage to make it look like they're breathing. But now we need to make sure. Now we need to store those.
Right.
What's that?
I did a new animation. I clicked delete keyframes, and they're still
You select all.
there. Yeah.
That should
I don't
clear.
know what the hell I'm doing.
We'll look at it in a moment. So if you just watch the steps, you'll want to get practice. It is not intuitive. It takes a lot of practice. You'll just keep going back, and yes, it is frustrating. Control Z is keep that in mind. So this is one of those things while you're getting the practice, you're probably going to keep one hand on the mouse to move all the stuff, and your other hand on Control Z to undo what you just did until you get it.
Oh yeah, I've been doing that a lot. So
Yeah, it takes practice. I've been doing this for longer than most of y'all have been alive. First time I saw 3D modeling was right after Jurassic Park came out. And it was the first Jurassic Park, not the, well, after like the 7th or 8th one. They're still making those movies. They've seriously decreased in quality.
I heard they're making a video game coming out called Jurassic Park Survival.
Yeah, it's still popular, but it's been around for a long. It was the early 90s. Oh yes. So now that we have all these animations, this list puts them in edit mode. We actually need them on a way that's good for processing. For a couple of y'all who've been to like a 200 level class, probably heard the word stack. It's the optimal way for a computer to handle our data. Or in certain situations, it's the way a computer naturally wants to handle our data. It's not the optimal way, it's the way the computer wants to handle our data. So it's a lot more efficient than having our edited versions there. So what we have to do is push these onto the stack So see this button right here, it says push down. We need to push them on a stack. So you'll click that. So like the idle one, we want to push that down onto the stack. There's another one I use where we have a better view, but that's probably going to be confusing now. So let's select idle and push down onto the stack. And then throw, push down onto the stack. And notice how it disappeared when I did that.
So
And
what does push down onto the stack do exactly?
it puts it onto a stack. So when you get to 200 level programming class, you know what a stack is. It's a way to handle our data, how computers handle stuff. Think of it like a stack of plates. We're going to wash dishes and put the dishes away. The last plate we washed and put away is going to be the first one we grab come next mealtime, right? That's how computers handle instructions. So the last one to go in is the first one to come out, and it's just a way we have to handle this. So pushes it onto the stack. And notice how it cleared it off of there when I did. If I go back to idle, I don't think that one would push that down. Oh, it won't let me push idle on there because there's no keyframes. I'm going to remove the fake user so it doesn't so it optimizes that out of there. There's another view. You don't necessarily follow this. If we go to no animations, so here's our stack. So these are the animations that are finished editing and pushed down onto a more efficient way for the computer to handle it. So we don't, right? When we get to our game, we don't need the editing functions on it. We just need the ask for functions. So like a stack of plates in the cabinet after washing dishes, we go to get our next meal. This makes it so the computer can quickly dig through that stack and find the one it's looking for. It's what computers want to do naturally. But really what you just remember, push after you finish editing, hit the push down button. So it's on the stack. I'm going to go into, instead of editing the one I put in here the other day, I just created a new one. So I'm going to go in here and delete the one that we made the other day and all these backups. That's how Blender keeps making more backups. All the ones that don't have the Blender icon. I'm guessing untitled player definitely recognize the rest. So I'm going to delete the one from the other day just because I just made a new one. Probably should have edited the one from the other day, but if we come over here and file and save, we can save it right in that game. So it's in the game project, and this time I'll call it player. Give it a nice, meaningful name instead of untitled. And when we go, shoot up the import that. One thing you want to do now that we have animations, double click on it to come back in here. You can see there's an animation player. So we brought in the Godot animation player node. I believe that was in the 2D tutorial. You saw one of those for sprite sheets. Yeah. So it just automatically converted Blender's animation node to Godot's animation node. That's why we have to push it out. Blender, we can work on them in editing format, but Godot requires that they be in a stack. So hitting that push down button allows it to automatically convert to the Godot node.
Can you still edit them? Just this
one? Yes. Still on the list here. So I can just like choose the throw animation. And yeah, go back through and edit it and then push down again when the editing's finished. Yeah, so that's like finalized. One thing you want to do here, so double click on it to open the import options. When you select one of those animations, notice by default loop mode over in the top right says none, which that'll be fine because we didn't add anything to the animation. The throw animation, probably only want to do that once, right? Like throw the ball and, that's a one-time thing, or a jumping animation, we only do that once, but walking, that's gonna keep happening, so this is where we set the looping, so linear goes from beginning to end, and then back to the beginning. Ping pong goes from beginning to end, and then reverse. Hopefully the name makes sense there. Linear just goes all the way through, starts over. Ping pong goes back and forth. So whichever style animation you want there. And then hit re-import. And that brings all of our animations in with it. So if we go to player, notice the mesh is still loaded in here. I'm going to delete that mesh. Did we do anything special with that one?
Not moving it down.
Just turn it around, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna delete that.
Moved it down and then we did 180 degrees matchup.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. So I'll bring this up. So there's our mesh. I'll put it in the same spot there. I'll just call it mesh. Go back to what that is. And oh, there's another import option we didn't get the other day. But we can go in here and remind you of where this one is. So, like we saw the other day, it tried to go ahead and apply every animation and every modification at once. I'll let it update on the Zoom screen. It tried to do all the animations at once, so our mesh just became a jumbled mess. If you go in here and select the scene level, the very top, and on the options on the right, switch this to scroll down to meshes, and skins, switch from all influences to 4 influences. And when you re-imported it, that should fix it. And now we can grab our transform data on just the mesh and rotate that 180 degrees quad. Faces the right direction. Oh yeah. I'm gonna leave it like that and change those things in Blender. Go layout, and in Blender, I'm going to transform and rotate 180 degrees here, so that there is no modification when we get to Godot. When we get over to Godot, this is the way we want it to be oriented. We know it's backwards, and we also the origin is on our feet here, so we want to go to -1 to match where the origin is in Blender. In Godot. In Godot, we set the origin to be at the center. We can move that to the feet to match up. Probably easiest just to move it here. And again, if we hit A to select everything, and Control A will reset all our transforms to that position. And we can see if we hit the space bar, the animations still work. I'm going back over to the animation tab and switch to leave this one on walking, so that walking is our default animation. Save that, and Godot should automatically update. Oh, we already moved it. We moved the camera, but the camera didn't get up here. So now we're ready to animate this character and put in our game. So right now, if I hit run real quick before we take a break, it'll look, oops, go to this tab and hit run. It'll look exactly like it did when we left off the other day, but we have animations in that character now. It does take a good bit of practice. So part of the reason that I was thinking about cutting lecture a little short today, so you can practice the animation stuff. That's something you probably want. And like we saw at the very beginning, it's a good little thing. I guess the difference here was in our shadow, wasn't it? Now, even though it's first person view, we probably want to see a human shaped shadow person view. and we will do the animation in a second. The big thing is you can see all these tools are already built for us. We just have to get some practice using them. That animation tool will take a lot of practice. Just do it, undo it, delete it, make different versions of your file, different points along the way, because you add different animations, and then maybe you don't have to necessarily undo so many steps. You get some practice and then go back to the earlier version. When you know what you're gonna do on it, just get some practice with it. Then, like we saw at the beginning, that's something you can also turn around and sell. Just set up some vendor accounts. And that part, if you start making models, you can do that as a student. You can do that over the 5 week break. Get some practice in, put a couple models out there for $1 or $2 each, and maybe help pay for your school by making some video game development. But for now, probably a break. 10 minutes sound good to everybody? I know I'm getting thirsty and need to step over to the office and grab a sip of coffee. So my laptop says 2:19. We will get back to it at 2:29. See you in just a moment.